Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw. Oh, boom! I love this. This is awesome. So, okay, you send the photos. I don't look at all I do is I'm very careful to make sure the size is okay, and that the basics are there.
Okay.
But I try not to look at the actual photograph, right? As a perfect sort of
Okay.
segue, here's a photo. It looks like a kind of a more corporate photo. I hope we're allowed to use it. But there's a logo VSG Vanda Sports Group on the bottom right. But it's a photo.
Oh yeah, Vanda. Uh-huh.
So it's a photo of three people in a ring, in a boxing ring. One person is wearing like is in red. One person is in blue. The people are wearing headgear, the sort of the head protection, which is very good. The ref is all in white. It's in the back, kind of mid step. It's a funny photograph. In the photo, the two boxers, one person is kind of, it looks like a hook to the right to hit the blue boxer is kind of hooking to the right over the shoulder, and the one in the red is almost like jabbing to the front, and it's like the glove is right there in the person's face. You're in a room, or the boxers are in a room. There's an audience. There's an audience of, I don't know, a few hundred people. So I assume this was before COVID, because there are also, and it's in a room with
Oh,
like.
way before. Yeah, I think that's like 2011, maybe,
Oh, okay.
or 2012. I think it's 2012.
Okay. So what's the situation here?
Okay, so going back to the housing crisis. When I was hustling, barely getting by, I met someone who thought eventually perhaps he could teach me how to box, and then we kind of take it to the next level. Maybe I could make some money.
Oh,
I'm
really?
telling you, I was doing all kinds of weird things
What?
to survive.
Wait. Stop.
Yeah, so I
Stop.
didn't ever have a competition.
What?
Okay. The story.
I love it. Go.
Story.
Go.
Okay, so this is in New York when I first learned how to box, but that photo you're looking at is in Hong Kong.
Okay.
So I started learning how to box, and then when I met my ex-husband, he said champions don't fall in love. He didn't want to teach me how to box anymore. So I started at this little, really cheap boxing gym called, what is it, Kingsway or something like that in Chelsea. And it was reasonable, but it was how I totally dealt with my stress. It was what kept me going, honestly. There were times I was like, I have nothing but boxing.
Yeah.
So then I moved to Hong Kong, and the first thing I do is look for a boxing gym, and I find Impact through Vanda.
Okay.
Because I'm Googling boxing, and I come to Vanda, and I could see they have competitions and things, and they're like, oh, go to Impact, where I met Alon. First thing I see him, he's grinning from ear to ear.
Yeah.
He was amazing. He totally took me under his wing. And
Aw.
then my boxing trainer, David, was just always pushing me to be better. And he was a great trainer. And I trained with him for like 8 years.
Awesome.
And it was amazing. And there were moments in my life because, I was going through a divorce, and then I was living on this stipend for my PhD. And, Hong Kong, you need money.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't even afford to hang out, like go to bars or go to dinner with my friends. I was broke. So I boxed. I boxed through all of it.
Wow.
So I ended up, I think, having 12, 13 competitions in Hong Kong.
What?
And that picture is my first competition.
Oh.
And that is a white collar fight that Vanda put on. And then my friends were there to support me, which is great.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I still love boxing. I still box. I haven't had the chance yet to look for a boxing gym in Big Bear, but I'm very excited to find it.
Ah, nice. I am all over this. This is great. So, a bit of convergence in this way as well. So, Alain Galani, when I moved to Hong Kong in 2003, I looked for a Muay Thai gym, and he was part of a very tiny gym on Lama, actually. That was I think it was the first Impact gym.
Oh, really?
It was on
Okay.
Lama. It was tiny.
Okay.
And I remember
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I remember walking in, and he's like, okay, now he's older, so this was like, 17, 18 years ago. But I remember walking into this little gym, and there's a big heavy bag, and he's such a beast, and him kicking the bag so hard that the big heavy bag essentially swung up and hit the ceiling, and I was just like, holy shit, this guy's insane, and also the sweetest person you could ever meet.
Exactly. He looks so mean, but he's like a big teddy bear. But maybe he doesn't want me to see that on air. But he's a very nice guy. He's a good person.
He's so good. He's so good. And I mean, look, you know, I think he reached the title of World Muay Thai champ, fighting in Thailand, in Bangkok. So that's great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so how often do you suggest martial arts or an intense sport to your clients as a means of, as a coping mechanism?
I kind of see where they are, how much they like fitness or not. And if they're not into fitness, I ask them to take it slow, do something right. Because it's so healthy to move your body. That's part of what I'm talking about, keeping your body out of that survival feeling is physical fitness. But martial arts, I think, is amazing for stress, and it's amazing for training your mind and focus and finding peace and all of that. Sometimes I recommend it, sometimes I don't. It just depends on the person and what they're into. Because if people are already into sports, they have their thing, right? But I have recommended it to some people.
Yeah, like for some people, like for example, my wife, it's long distance hiking, right? So she just does long distance, and you reach that sort of that place of like mental sort of meditative balance, I guess, when you do like hikes that are longer than 4 or 5 hours, right? Like you totally hit a nice meditative state that way. And for me, my like Muay Thai and now I'm doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. These are my two happy places. It's great.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely helps you to get into the zone.
Right. So was your motivation to go in this area, you know, of counseling, psychology, clinical psychology? Is it like the driver that fundamentally inside you connected with the fact that, hey, you know, there's a lot of personal pain here, and I want to help others, and this is how I'm going to do it, by going towards that crisis area in your own self?
Well, I started my career as a graphic designer, actually. And so I think I was a graphic designer from 2001 to 2004. And it was just starting to get to me because it was like political time and people were voting. And I was like, I already know who's going to win because they have the most ads. And then I was like, I'm part of this system that's brainwashing America. And I don't like it. So then I went into therapy myself to find myself, to find my identity, to figure out what next, right? I didn't have another plan. I thought I was going to be a graphic designer forever. And at the time, my boyfriend was suffering from depression, and he'd stay in bed for like 3 days. And I didn't understand it. I was like, just get out of bed. Just go, you know, just do something. So then I started reading about depression. And I thought, oh, that's fascinating. And then I started reading more and more psychology. Like, oh, wow, this is super interesting. So then I went to University of Utah, where I had amazing professors, and I just loved it. I just soaked it up. I was like, wow, this is how our mind and our body work together. That's amazing. And for sure, I could identify with some of it. For sure, it was like, oh, this is what's happening with me. This is what's happening with people I love. This is great. And yeah, I'd love to keep going with this. I never knew I was going to be a psychologist then. I thought, oh, I'm on the research track.
Right.
But my master's and my PhD kind of showed me, well, you know, my research skills could be better. I'm not that great at statistics. But I am good, and I don't mean to like brag or anything, but I'm good with connecting to people because I like people. I care about their stories, and I've been through a lot of trauma myself. And so I feel like, well, if I can get through this, I want to help you get through this. And I know how to get you through this. I want to sit with you on this journey, and I want to see you thrive.
Amazing. This idea of giving back to another person, right? And so here we are in this really strange time where there's a collective. Okay, so my experience with a tsunami was that, by calling it a we trauma, a we ontology, that hundreds of thousands of people at the same moment either died or were threatened with death, or all suddenly, millions of people all of a sudden had to contend with this incredible shock, right? And so that experience really kind of created one sort of point of awareness. But then now with the pandemic, like, professionally speaking, on your side, in terms of how you're seeing your clients, because you're in the weird sort of space where your body is in the United States, thousands of miles away from your clients who are here in Hong Kong. Yes. And Hong Kong is going through some really intense, not only the pandemic, but also political and social and all kinds of shocks. Yes. So what? Oh yeah. How about you speak to that professionally?
What do you mean? You mean being online?
No, but like in terms of, I know you can't speak about specific patients, but what have you seen it? Okay, so my degree was in clinical trials, like research methodology, right? So a lot of that was statistics. Yeah. So what would happen if you were to make a statistical analysis of the past, or your patients of the past, say 2 or 3 years? What trends could you identify?
That's a very good question, because as you know, there's this quarantine thing going on in Hong Kong, right? And people can't get out. Yeah. So they're starting to feel trapped. That's what I've seen is people. Okay, so I'm just going to walk you through a little bit of a timeline. So when COVID hit, actually, let's start with the protests. When the protests started, a lot of people were scared because some of them were violent. And people were scared. Okay, well, what next? What's going to happen next? So all this underlying trauma that maybe people have put in the back of their mind, or they weren't even aware was a thing, started coming to the surface. And unfortunately, a lot of abuse. People were like, this has triggered my trauma. This has triggered my abuse. So that was that. And then the pandemic comes, and then people get anxious. What next? What's going to happen next? And then the political situation, and then quarantine, people start to feel trapped, and they start to feel, oh my God, what next? And so it was a lot. Hong Kong went through a really hard time of what next? What next? Yeah. What next? What next? Right? And so now I'm seeing a lot of people leaving, and I don't know if you are as well.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah. So people are leaving. A lot of my clients have already left, right? They left before I did.
Okay. Yeah. Somebody who's listening to this, who recognizes themselves. Yes. What can we give them as a means to cope? What can we give a listener who is willing to open that door and look at the sort of the fear and the anxiety back there, who recognizes it, who recognizes themselves in what we're saying? Like, what can we say, or what can you say to them to help them find some level of stability?
Yeah, so there's this concept of psychological flexibility, and it's linked to resilience. There's this gray area people do not like to be in, right? They like clear answers. They like planning. They like to say, okay, I know what's happening. And when we're in this gray area, we get scared because we can't see it. But there's a lot of things we have to remember we can't see. Like, you didn't know your friend was going to fall. You didn't know you're going to get hit by a car. So waiting for that other shoe to drop is kind of a waste of time, a waste of energy, because we literally can't predict it. So in this gray area, it's a good time to analyze your feelings, right? Because if we avoid our feelings, it's going to chase us. If we push it down, it's going to get bigger. If we connect with our body, right? If we pay attention to what's happening in our body and we be curious, okay, why is my heart beating so fast? Am I excited? Am I scared? Okay, let's look at my fear bucket. What's in there? for every single fear, can I come up with a plan? If I can't, how do I get comfortable with this gray area? How do I get comfortable with the unknown? What do I need? What do I need to say to myself? What do I need from others? What do I need to say to others?
Yeah. This is a really unexpected depth or territory that we've gone into, and I also love that as we're talking about this, there's a photo of it's a room in red light taken at the eye level, say, of somebody standing looking through the ropes of a boxing ring, and in it, are you in red or are you in blue?
Good question. I don't remember. I think I'm in red.
Okay. Well, you're the one who's jabbing somebody right in the kisser, right in the face. And so...
Yeah, that would be...
You're competitive. I love it. Awesome. So, yeah, get into your body. We're talking about resilience. We're talking about strength. We're talking about somehow... Is it a question of containing our fears? Is it a question of coming to terms with them? Like, how do we uplift somebody listening now who may be seeking help and some kind of stability?
I can summarize it very clearly. It's the same thing I feel like I say every day. You matter and you count.
Nice.
And I say that because when people have trauma, when people have been abused, they start to believe they're worthless. And that's not the case. You matter and you count.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start to be a bully to yourself, you got to use a nurturing voice, a self-compassionate voice. What would you say to your friend in the same situation? Someone you love in the same situation? You wouldn't bully them. You'd be like, it's okay. We're going to get through this.
Right.
And that voice is healing, right?
Yeah, 100%. Monica, how do I say your last name? Borschel?
Yes. Borschel,
Thank you so much. You're awesome. And
thank you too. You are too. I'm so glad you did this.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so amazing that we have so much in common.
Yeah, well, look, hopefully one day we'll be in the ring together and you can flatten me out. Looking forward to it.
Or I can run away from you. One of the two.
I'm a lover, not a fighter. Oh, thank you so much, Monica. Have a great evening.
So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.